Ah yes, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. He became a sensation since his 1954 debut in Japan, and since then, his legacy has been defined by the many movies he's been in. Of course, the less said about that 1998 Godzilla film, the better. Unless you count its animated spin-off, which was ironically more true to its kaiju roots. But now, we are going to show you a review of the newest Godzilla film, King of the Monsters, alongside a re-review of the 2014 Godzilla film. Enjoy! Author's note: this video is my review of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, based on Godzilla by Tomoyuki Tanaka, Ishiro Honda, and Eiichi Tsuburaya. Directed by Michael Dougherty. Published by Warner Bros., the Toho Company, and Legendary Pictures. Starring Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, Miller Bobby Brown, Bradley Whitford, Sally Hawkins, Charlie Dance, Thomas Middleditch, Aisha Hines, O'Shea Jackson Jr., David Stratharan, Ken Watanabe, and Ziyi Zhang. With Godzilla motion capture by TJ Storm. Rated PG-13. This video also contains a re-review of Godzilla 2014. Directed by Gareth Edwards. Published by Warner Bros., the Toho Company, and Legendary Pictures. Starring Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ken Watanabe, Elizabeth Olsen, Juliette Binoche, Sally Hawkins, David Stratharan, and Bryan Cranston. With Godzilla motion capture by TJ Storm. Rated PG-13. You know, it's been 5 years since I first reviewed Godzilla 2014, and you know what? Let's go back in time and take a second look at the real American revival of this iconic kaiju. Scientists in Japan discover a monster known as the Muto, which escapes and devours nuclear material across the world. A giant protector by the name of Gojira may be the only thing that can bring it down.
Keep the doors open! My wife is still in there!
I admit, I think I was a tad bit harsh on the review back in 2014, but like I said with that review, I enjoyed the human story of the movie, seeing the fallout that occurred in Japan and Joe Brody losing his wife. Sure, Godzilla is supposed to be a movie series about kaijus fighting other kaijus, but when done right, the human element of the story makes it worth watching and waiting for the big climax.
Control, I have no power! I say again, I've lost it!
But what I enjoyed more about this film was that everything, and I mean everything, can go wrong. And it all went wrong. From Japan to Honolulu to Las Vegas and San Francisco. It was like all hell was breaking loose, mostly caused by the Muto. They're a fun antagonist that makes the human characters all the more helpless, and they even put Godzilla on edge. Surprisingly, there was a bit of a human element to the Muto as well, and they actually made him more of a curiosity than a threat.
What were you doing going back there?
Oh, this trespassing stuff, that was just a bunch of bull.
You broke the law.
I was just trying to get back to our old house.
Which is in a quarantine zone.
Precisely.
And as I enjoyed the movie for its human focus, the same can be said of Ford Brody. He lost his mother when he was a kid. He loses his father even further in the story. Even more so, it seems the chaos of the Muto follows him all the way to his home in San Francisco. But what surprises me is that he survives every event that he goes through. Even with hell surrounding him to the very end, he's tough. And I'm glad to see him survive the worst.
Takes a licking, keeps on ticking.
But as I stated with my original review, my biggest problem is Godzilla, or rather, it didn't use him as much. Even the Muto got more screen time than the big lizard. Still, when he shows up in the finale, it still proved to be very satisfying. And yet, I still wish we saw him more in earlier parts of the movie. At least he didn't resemble a deformed iguana. Roland Emmerich, I'm looking at you, you monster.
Let them fight.
I felt a bit harsh on Godzilla 2014, but it turned out much better than I thought. It felt exciting from the beginning in the past all the way to the very end, even if we didn't see Godzilla as much, but something tells me I may not enjoy the sequel as much as this film. I take it back, I enjoyed this sequel almost as much. 5 years have passed since the events of Godzilla 2014. Earth makes an attempt to control the newly emerged kaijus, but one threatens the very existence of all life on the planet, Monster Zero, aka King Ghidorah.
How many of these things are there?
17 and counting.
I didn't find a human story as interesting as the first movie. The Russells are a nice addition, though they are nowhere near as interesting as Ford Brody in the first film, though what happened with Dr. Emma Russell was a surprise that I didn't intend to see happen. But the real reason why I don't find him as interesting as Ford, mainly because Ford's version of hell was a blast to go through. But
Let's get started.
like with the last film, they showcase humanity going through hell, especially after King Ghidorah awakens. Part of what made me like the last film was the devastation going on thanks to the kaiju going on a rampage. Also, the mythology surrounding the kaiju was fascinating to look at, from Mothra to Rodan. Even some of the newer kaiju were interesting to look at, but they don't use them as much, not even the new Muto.
You gotta be kidding.
But the one criticism I'm glad they addressed was Godzilla. He got more screen time and more focus, even though the other kaiju took the attention away. In the first film, he was barely there, but in this film, we actually see him more in action and when he was weakened. This is true when Godzilla confronts King Ghidorah at least 3 times. Even the climax winds up topping the 2014 fight between Godzilla and the Muto.
They all respond directly to an alpha.
And as much as I liked Mothra and Rodan, King Ghidorah stole the show. Also known as Monster Zero, King Ghidorah doesn't hold back when it comes to ripping and tearing the planet apart. There was a part of me that wanted to root for this 3-headed dragon, as he kept Godzilla on the brink. He fits in perfectly as Godzilla's arch nemesis, even though I have never watched the original movie that introduced King Ghidorah.
This is Godzilla's world. We just live in it.
Damn right.
I have to disagree with critics on this, but I wound up enjoying Godzilla, King of the Monsters. A slight step down from the first film, but it was still enjoyable, and they finally put those kaijus on the center stage, especially Godzilla and King Ghidorah. And thank goodness it was nowhere as awful as the 1998 Godzilla film.